young black males commit a wildly disproportionate amount of violent crime. Wildly disproportionate.
Okay, statistically.
Statistically, yes.
I have heard these statistics.
Right. It's just a fact. It's just a fact of life. It doesn't make me hate black people or think that, but it's just it's a fact. It's a very unfortunate fact. So the question is, when you're going about your daily life, are you supposed to just pretend you don't know that? Or is there never a scenario where that knowledge, just like it does with men versus women, the knowledge of the statistics, the likelihoods, the so on and so forth, is there never a scenario where you could act on that to some degree in a moment of self-preservation? I mean, I think clearly you can.
Fall for it, I don't think.
Matt Walsh went on Jillian Michaels' show and absolutely obliterated all of her woke talking points. Things got pretty heated after Matt Walsh attacked all of the stuff that Jillian Michaels was trying to throw at him. Let's get into this clip here where Matt Walsh, who has been under fire for his recent movie putting out and just kind of not really caring about all the fire that he's been under, and actually he's been getting a lot of support from people like Joe Rogan and those larger names for this movie. Even, a lot of mainstream comedians who are not necessarily in the political commentary space or talk about politics at all, they're praising Matt Walsh for that movie. And people like Jillian Michaels and others are pretty mad at him. Let's get into this heated clip here where Matt Walsh absolutely destroys Jillian Michaels on her own show.
Get this.
I would never go.
The white, black is different.
Why is it different?
Because here's the thing. If there's a man in an alley, the male piece is different in my opinion simply because women aren't going to rape somebody, but a man can, right? As far as I know. I mean, God forbid those statistics that's some way that's possible. But as far as I know, if I'm not in a female prison, I'm not getting raped by a woman. But men do far more often. 1 in 3 women are raped or molested. So that's got to mean there's a good number of guys out there who could perpetrate such a crime. But if I was walking down an alley, I would not think like, oh, he's white, so I'm probably not going to get raped. And I actually think the gods would never think that. But I feel like if you see a black guy and you think you're in more danger, not that you're a racist, but you definitely have succumbed to a bias without question. And I think that does so much harm for race relations, especially because then.
But do you think we should completely ignore patterns?
Yeah, here's the reality. I'm going to try to not be super harsh with this, but it's a bias either way. If you're not hiring male babysitters, hey, you're biased against males. Why? Because males are more likely to do something to the baby or not be a great babysitter than women are. The same thing goes for race as well. It's just like natural human instincts that we have, And like if we're just being completely honest, if you look at the statistics, you probably are more likely to get harmed by a black person walking down the street than a white person. Just statistically speaking, that's not my opinion. That's just the actual statistics, okay? That's not my opinion at all. I love black people. I love people of all colors, okay? Just a disclaimer out there. But it's just crazy to me how the race thing is so sensitive to people. And it's like, oh, yeah, I mean, you might be correct and your bias might be based on statistics and it might just be natural human instinct, but I want the world to be all sunshine and rainbows, so you should ignore your biases and ignore your human instincts that are based around survival and based around you not getting robbed or harmed or something. You should just ignore all of that because it makes me feel better. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. That's how you know somebody's privileged when they can say something like that. And I grew up, not to be like a back in my day type person. I'm only 25, so I'm not like old or anything, but I grew up in the South. I grew up around mostly not white people. In college, I had 3 black roommates and I chose them. They were close friends of mine and I still have a ton of close black friends. But if you just simply look at the statistics, you are probably more likely to get harmed or robbed or a violent crime to be committed to you by a black person. And that's just the statistics, not my opinion. I love black people once again. So don't come at me, please.
Is that we can all see? Like,
what do you mean?
Well, okay. Young black males commit a wildly disproportionate amount of violent crime. Wildly disproportionate.
Okay, statistically.
Statistically, yes.
I have heard these statistics.
Right. It's just a fact. It's just a fact of life. I don't like it. I wish it.
I have heard these statistics. I choose to not accept them. It's just so, bro, we live in an absolute clown world. You can tell, like, the hard times create strong men stuff. Hard times create strong people. Good times create weak people in general. This is like a weak person take. Matt Walsh is just saying, statistically speaking, this instinct that we have, yes, it is bias, yes, it is racial bias, but statistically, it is a correct instinct that we have. And Jillian Michaels is like, yes, I have heard these statistics, but I choose to not believe them because I'd rather just bury my head in the sand and make myself, convince myself to feel all warm and fuzzy inside by ignoring the facts of the situation.
It wasn't a fact. It doesn't make me hate black people or think that, but it's just it's a fact. It's a very unfortunate fact. So the question is, when you're going about your daily life, are you supposed to just pretend you don't know that? Or is there never a scenario where that knowledge, just like it does with men versus women, the knowledge of the statistics, the likelihoods, the so on and so forth, is there never a scenario where you could act on that to some degree in a moment of self-preservation? I mean, I think clearly you can.
I wouldn't fall for it, I don't think, because it would depend on the part of town I'm into. So, like, you could go to a bad part of town, and there's guys of all different colors that are belonging to gangs, Asian gangs, Latin gangs, white skinheads, black gangs. In that part of town, I would think this is not a good part of town. If I was walking in a good part of town, wouldn't care the color of skin of the individual I was walking past. That part, I really think I try with these generalizations and these statistics not to succumb to this, not to label people based on generalizations. And maybe that's naive, but I don't.
I think it honestly is more about how they present themselves as well, because it's not like every time I'm walking down the street, like I run 4 miles every single day. So I run past a good amount of people. And it's not like every time I see a black dude, I'm like, oh my God, I must run the other way. But there are some white people where I'm like, what the hell is this guy doing? And I just run away because they're looking at me weird or they're just acting really funny and I'll run away. But I'll say more often than not, the way that people present themselves does correlate with their skin color a lot of the time. Like I'll not super often, but sometimes I'll see, like the other day I was running and there's a group of 3 black dudes and they all had ski masks on. And like, I'm like, what the hell are you doing at a park in the middle of the day with ski masks on? I'm running the other way. And I don't often see groups of 3 white dudes with ski masks on for fun in the middle of the day at a park. Like it just doesn't happen. So I think it also comes down to like, what is considered cool to present yourself as in certain cultures. In white culture, it's not really cool to run around with ski masks on and like act like you're robbing a bank in the middle of the day at a park. Like that's not cool. Most of the time when I see white dudes, they're just throwing a football with shorts and a t-shirt on, like just chilling. But like I said, there are times where white dudes will present themselves in a way where it's like, oh, this is shady. I'm going the other way. I'm not going by that guy. But it's more often than not, like it is correlated with skin color on how people present themselves as well. I think that's a huge part because it really isn't like there's not every single time I see a black dude when I'm running, I run the other way. Like more often than not, I don't think they're a threat at all. But it does come down to more how you present yourself. I think that's the key.
I think anything good comes out of that. I would also wonder when we look at, I could make the argument, somebody could, and it's not going to be me because I'm not intelligent enough to do it and I don't know the information behind it, but somebody might turn around and say to you, well, there's more black crime because of systemic racism and the position we've put black people in and we've destroyed the black families and there have been all these laws over the years. Because I know that argument would be made by a person who's far more educated on it than me. Do you think there's anything to that? Because I hate to tell you that I do think years of putting people in this position, you know what I mean? You fundamentally disempower someone and you tell them also, the man's out to get you. Well, if the man's out to get you, then you have no hope. And maybe you will think, well, I need to make money this way.
I think I agree with that last part, that the message, like we talked about, this infantilizing message, really to any group that is not white, is well, maybe to the
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
exception of excluding Asians. All other non-white groups are infantilized with this message and told that you don't have power over your own life. And I think that has a terrible effect on people. And so I agree with you there. The first part of it, you say, well, we destroyed the black family.
I mean, I've heard those arguments. Now, and forgive me, again, I'm not super educated. I can't engage in an intelligent debate with you, but I have heard those arguments, and they have sounded pretty credible. And it has to do with like giving benefits to families if the father's not there. That there, I'm sure I'm butchering this, but there's an incentive to break up Black families. Do you think I'm wrong about this? Am I?
Yeah, I think. Well, first of all,
misinformed?
you're saying you're butchering there. You're actually not. I think you're.
Am I getting it right?
Well, no, you should. Yeah, you are credibly representing
That position.
what the other side would say.
Okay.
So no, I don't think there's any worries there. But what I would say to that is, well, no, we are not destroying the Black family. I'm not doing that. You're not doing that.
No, we are.
The law is not doing that.
Systemically, well, hold on.
Well,
if you're giving benefits, though, right? If there's an incentive, like you get more the food stamps or whatever it is, if there's no father in the house, technically, isn't that legal? Legally, you would get.
It's kind of like a damned if you don't, damned if you do situation. Because if that wasn't the case, like if you don't get more food stamps if the father wasn't in the house, and they would say, oh, you're trying to destroy Black families, therefore, because of the fact that you're not giving us extra help, because all these Black guys are leaving their wives after they have children, or leaving their girlfriends after they have children with them, and you don't want us to succeed because you're not giving us food stamps when the husband leaves. You're not giving us more. We deserve more. You're trying to destroy Black families because you're not giving us enough when the father's not present. Or if you do give them more food stamps when the father is not present, then everybody says, oh, you're trying to destroy Black families by incentivizing the father to not be present. It's like, what the hell do you do to not get criticized? Like, what the hell could you possibly do to say that you're not destroying Black families? And I'm not saying that they're not doing that. I'm not even saying that they're not doing that. I'm just saying it is a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. I'm not one to ever defend the government, ever. I think that they've done horrible things. And I think overall, not just Black families, they're trying to disincentivize families in general. They're trying to, get rid of the nuclear family altogether. I agree with that. I'm just saying, in particular, like with the Black families thing, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, no doubt.
Better benefits in a home with no dad.
Yeah, and I myself don't know exactly how the benefits part works out, but I do know that whatever, I do think
welfare.
Right, and I will say the welfare state I think has a terrible effect on the family. It has hurt the family, the family, the institution of the family, white and Black. If there was anything that like specified Black people in those policies to try, then that would obviously you'd have an example there of systemic racism, but it doesn't. I mean, the effect that the welfare state and over reliance on the government, the effect that has can be felt and can be seen in low income white families and Black families, and so you have an 80%.
Yeah, I think, and personally, I think Matt Walsh just made Jillian Michaels look like an idiot just based on the fact that Matt Walsh was stating facts. And I know this is going to offend a ton of people, but Matt Walsh was just facts. He's just stating facts, just going off facts, basing his opinions off facts. And Jillian Michaels is like, yeah, I know these facts. I just choose to not accept them. Because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. It's ridiculous, man, what the world has become. Let me know in the comments who you think won this debate between Matt Walsh and Jillian Michaels. I thought it was clearly Matt Walsh, and he went on her own show and absolutely destroyed Jillian Michaels. Let me know in the comments what you think about this whole Matt Walsh versus Jillian Michaels situation.